All right, so this lesson is on essay vocabulary and the composition process. Now, it's very important that you learn this essay vocabulary so that we can all communicate effectively about the parts of an essay. And then the composition process that we're going to go through here is really for the school essay. It's not for newspaper writing or magazine articles or writing a short story. It's not anything like that. It's the composition process for school essays, whether we're talking about timed essays or take-home essays. All right. So first of all, an essay is a multi-paragraph piece of writing that argues for and proves a thesis. Right? So again, this is not a narrative or a newspaper article. You're trying to write to prove and to argue. And then within that essay, you have paragraphs, right? And then a paragraph is a smaller multi-sentence unit of writing that expresses an idea in support of the thesis. Right? So the building blocks. Now, again, newspaper articles, magazine articles, web pages, they have paragraphs. But those paragraphs aren't trying to do the same thing that a paragraph in a school essay is trying to do. And then really there are three types of paragraphs in a standard essay. There's the introductory paragraph, there's some number of body paragraphs, and finally there's a concluding paragraph. Right, so the thesis is a single sentence that contains the most important argument in an essay. And that essay then proves the truth or the validity or the position of that thesis. And so like I said, it's the most important sentence in the entire essay. If you don't have a thesis, you don't have an essay. You just have a pile of sentences. And it's really important to me too that you see the essay, that you see the thesis as a single sentence. If you can't get your argument down into one sentence, you probably aren't very clear on what you're doing. And so I'm going to really push you to make sure you have a one-sentence thesis. All right, and then you've got topic sentences, and you'll see me abbreviate those as TS. And that's the first sentence in a body paragraph. And it, like a thesis, is going to make an argument or a claim in support of the bigger thesis. Right? So topic sentences are basically commentary or analysis. Right? Quotes are not topic sentences. Evidence is not topic sentence. Facts are not topic sentences. They must be some kind of commentary or claim. And so basically, a topic sentence is like a thesis for a paragraph. Right? And then inside of the paragraph, you're going to have some evidence and some kind of commentary or analysis or explanation. Right? Evidence, of course, is a fact or a statistic or a quote or something from a book that supports or is used as evidence in support of the argument in the topic sentence. Right? And we've talked about this before. We've been working on this for a while. And you know that evidence comes from outside your brain and that you've got to cite it. Otherwise, you're plagiarizing or you're just not making a very good argument. And then with commentary or analysis or explanation, that's your opinion or your analysis, your explanation, or your insight that shows how the evidence supports the topic sentence. So this comes from inside your brain. This is your thinking, right? When students say, I don't know, and I say, I don't want you to know, I want you to think, really what I want is your commentary or your analysis, right? So, and that's the part that makes your writing unique and interesting. Right? Sometimes you'll hear me use the term ratio. And this is the ratio of evidence to commentary. Usually we're looking from one piece of evidence and then two or more sentences of commentary and analysis. And when you start writing longer sentences, we might think in terms of phrases and clauses, but for right now, we're going to look at this in terms of sentences. And then you've got a chunk, right? And that chunk is that 3-sentence group that contains one evidence and 2 or more commentary or analysis. Right? And so when you hear me say a 2-chunk paragraph, 3-chunk paragraph, that's what I'm talking about. Right? Now let's move on to the introductory paragraph. And it contains 3 parts, not necessarily 3 sentences. A good introduction will be usually 4 to 6 sentences, but they'll all have the same 3 parts. The first part is a theme sentence. The second part is some number of enumerative sentences. And then finally you'll have the thesis. All right, so theme sentence, or sometimes you'll hear English teachers call them hooks or lead-ins. This is broadly about the topic or some question related to the topic, but it does not make an argument. Right? Sometimes teachers will teach students to start with a juicy quote, and that could be a theme sentence, although that's a strategy that I think gets overused. Or you could start with a question as your hook or lead-in. Again, that tends to be an overused strategy that can be kind of stale. I don't mind you doing those things, but don't overdo it. Really, all you have to do is explain to your reader that the question exists, or that a problem or a dilemma exists. And immediately that lets your reader know that you're going to make an argument here. Then the next part is those enumerative sentences. And the root word of enumerative is number, as in number off, right? As in, first I'm going to do this, second I'm going to do this, third I'm going to do this, right? I'm holding up my fingers right now. Can't see that. That's enumeration, right? First I'm going to wake up, second I'm going to brush my teeth, third I'm going to do my hair, fourth I'm going to go to school, right? That's enumeration. So the enumerative sentences are when you're doing that enumeration, right? And that gives your reader the broad overview of what's going to be in the body of your essay. And you don't want to talk about, hey, in this essay I'm going to talk about this, and then also in this essay I'm going to talk about that. It's very boring to do it that way. Just simply say, first, this is really important, and second, this also, answers the question or deals with the topic. And you're going to notice that these are tied to the topic sentences of the body paragraphs. In fact, it's very difficult to write your enumerative sentences unless you know exactly what your topic sentences are going to be. And then, of course, you had the thesis in the introduction. So let's move on to the concluding paragraph, right? And the concluding paragraph contains similar information to the introduction. It restates the thesis, and it re-enumerates the main topics. It reviews the main things that the paper talked about. And then finally, it leaves the audience with a broad statement about the topic, right? Something to think about, a broad connection to the world, a personal statement or observation, and sometimes even further questions that exist. And so an essay actually kind of goes through almost an hourglass type of shape where, you've got the introduction that starts with the theme sentence, and then it funnels down to the thesis, and then your body paragraphs are very, very specific. And then in your conclusion, you restate your thesis, review your enumeration, and go back out to that broad statement, right? So for your intro, your body, and then your conclusion, right, you go from the general to the specific, and then through the specific, and then back from the specific out to the general again is one way to think about it. And we talk about like funnel technique, and that's what we mean by that. Right, and so this is just a brief kind of overview of the composition process, right? I want you to follow these steps. And this really helps for timed essays too, the kind of timed essays that you do on AP exams, the kinds of timed writings that you do for state proficiency exams or the SAT or the ACT. Actually, I'm not sure if the ACT has an essay, so I could be wrong there. But the kind of timed essays that are very high pressure. But this also works for take-home essays too. Right? So you want to read and reread the prompt and make sure you understand the topic and the form and the length. Make sure you know what you're doing, right? Sometimes students write great essays, they just don't follow the prompt. So you really want to make sure you understand that prompt. And then the first thing you actually do is write your thesis in response to that prompt. Whether the prompt tells you what to write about or it presents you with a driving question, either way, you need to write that thesis in response to the prompt, and you want to do that immediately. Then you kind of write out a list of subtopics that will address the topic in the prompt, and that will prove the thesis. And those end up being your topic sentences, right? So in case that's not clear, right, these are your topic sentences right here. Right? And then you write your body paragraphs one by one, which at that point, you've got your topic sentences, so you're just adding your evidence and your commentary. And then you write your introduction using your body paragraph topics for your enumeration. That's what I meant when I said it's very hard to write that intro if you don't know what you're doing with your body paragraphs. And then finally you write your conclusion, right? You rework the material from the introduction so that you're saying the same thing, you're just saying it a different way. And finally, edit. Right? Usually on a timed essay, you try to plow through and give yourself 5 minutes at the end to go back and fix spelling and commas and stuff like that. Obviously, if it's a take-home essay, you can get some peer editing or some editing from a friend or a parent or an older brother or sister or whatever. But you really need to edit and polish, especially on those take-home writings. And that's it. Thanks for watching.